another presentation of Pieces of the Past Resumed, produced by the Campbell County Historical and Genealogical Society in memory of Jim Reis. Today's historical event is the Spanish-American War and the soldiers of Campbell County who fought in it. America's shortest military conflict, the Spanish-American War, began April the 24th of 1898 and ended August the 12th, 1898. It dominated life in Newport during its brief duration. Older Newport veterans organized unofficial citizen militias to train themselves and then offer their services to the government. Charles H. Thurner formed the Whitehead Guards, named after Christopher Whitehead, who let them drill on the grounds of his tavern, the Tuxedo Gardens at 11th and Brighton Street in Newport. Principal Charles G. Hammond began recruiting and training students at Newport High School into the Hammond Rifles, an underage reserve force of 40 teenagers who might be needed to fill the state's militia shoes if it went overseas. Within hours of war being declared on Spain, men and boys in Newport flocked to Fort Thomas to enlist. A Newport mother was looking for her 17-year-old son, William Crichton, when he turned up at a recruiting station in Tampa, Florida. The boy's father, George, said he had run away at that age to fight in the Civil War. Perhaps William thought he could get to Cuba faster if he was in Florida. Wartime paranoia descended on Newport, and people began to see Spanish spies everywhere. Newport policeman Ben Evans arrested a stranger, Solomon Frisch, for looking Spanish. It turns out he was on his way from New York to visit his brother in Cincinnati. We might ask, what does looking Spanish look like? Newport was the recruiting station for the 2nd Regiment of Kentucky Volunteers. The city provided 108 men who then went for training at Chickamauga Park, Georgia. When they left, crowds, brass bands, and cannon blasts sent them off. They never saw any action in Cuba, but two of them, Albert J. Bodecker and Louis A. Narr, died of typhoid fever. The USS Maine was a United States Navy ship that sank in Havana Harbor in February 1898, contributing to the outbreak of the Spanish-American War in April. Several men from Newport already belonged to the regular Army's 6th Infantry Regiment when the ship was sunk, and people felt a special connection to the 6th. Newport native Frank Anderson had the honor of carrying a specially sewn flag into the Battle of Santiago. Captain Larry Hearn from Newport spent $5 after the battle to wire his parents that he was fine. The 6th Infantry suffered 146 casualties in the war. Congressman Albert S. Berry's son, Midshipman Robert L. Berry, a cadet at Annapolis, drew duty on the USS San Francisco, pictured above, in time to participate at the Battle of Havana. A Spanish shell tore through his vessel, but he survived to graduate from Annapolis in 1899. Newport's support for the war concluded with a special welcome home and reception for the 6th Infantry Regiment. A small parade started at the courthouse, proceeded up York Street to 8th, south on Monmouth to the Wiedemann Malt House, where the soldiers were treated with food and drinks. The Newport soldiers of the 6th who returned from the war wanted a camp where they could meet and discuss how best to meet the needs of each other. On September 18, 1898, a place south of Newport was selected and named Camp Alexander M. Wetherill after their leader, who led them, Santiago, but died in the battle. On May 21st, 1899, the Spanish-American veterans learned from the Secretary of War, R.A. Alger, quote, "I take pleasure in informing you that the commanding officer of the Water Villette Arsenal has this day been instructed to issue to Fort Thomas 2 large Spanish guns of bronze manufactured at Barcelona, Spain in 1768 and 1769. These cannon were among those captured at Santiago," end quote. In the Cincinnati Enquirer, Friday, 30th of June, 1899, page 12, quote, "By Saturday afternoon, both of the tablets to the fallen members of the 6th Regiment will be in place on the water tower, ready for unveiling. A number of the military organizations of the city will attend the unveiling on Saturday, and many of the men who served as volunteers in the Spanish-American War," end quote. The cannons can still be seen at the tower today. Kentucky Post, Tuesday, the 27th of February, 1906, page 1. Members of Kentucky regiments who served in the war with Spain in 1898 met last night at 341 York Street in Newport for the purpose of organizing a camp of Spanish-American War veterans. Colonel W.L. Lyons made an address. It was decided to meet at 3 p.m. Sunday, March 11th, when permanent officers will be elected. Kentucky Post, Tuesday, the 21st of April, 1953, page 5. Postponed last Saturday because of inclement weather, the 55th annual muster day of Alexandria M. Wetherell Camp 5, USWV, will be held 8 p.m. Wednesday at 821 York Street, Newport. Harry R. Pepper is commander of the Wetherell Camp, of which 5 members are now at Veterans Hospital, Fort Thomas. They include Ed Stanley, Fred Scyther, Gus Bertelsmann, George Rickerson, and Charles Dresselhaus. There were no more meetings held for the camp as the last of the veterans died. So ends a great story about Newport veterans. Be sure to visit the Campbell County Historical and Genealogical Society in Alexandria, Kentucky to see more about our veterans collection.